What's up, everybody? Welcome back to What Is This Podcast? I am your host, Dave, and with me, as always, is my boy, Gene. What up, Gene?
Yo, what's going on?
How you been, man?
I've been all right, man. I've been all right. Yourself, how you been?
I've been pretty good, doing well.
Good.
So this is in real time in our lives. This would be our 13th episode
I
that we're
believe so.
recording.
Yep.
But the last couple of weeks, we finally dropped episode 1 and episode 2. So we are finally published. um, so how you feeling now that we're out in the big bad world?
Finally, man. I'm just glad that a majority of my technical issues have been resolved, and we can just kind of move forward and just focus on building out the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's exciting. The first episode did really well, a lot better than I was expecting it to do.
Yeah, me too.
So
Me
that
too.
I mean, that's a good start. And the second episode, it's only been a couple of days, but it's doing what it's doing. And the TikTok is now up and running with a minor technical complication that I'm going to work out.
Yeah. As far as like the episodes moving forward, if I were to guess, I think that we probably won't see the same numbers we saw for the first episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Because people just kind of want to check it out and
Right.
decide whether or not it's something that they're interested in. But at the end of the day, we're at the amateur level, and
Right.
I don't think we're quite there as far as having a show where people kind of like anticipate, or you know what I mean, like
no, yeah,
they'll probably catch it, you know what I mean. So we're building from here.
Yeah, we're gonna be like well into double digits before anything like that starts to happen.
Yeah,
in my opinion. So but in terms of starts, I feel good.
I do too. I'm happy for just starting.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so here we are. And it's been, it's interesting how far ahead we are of ourselves, though. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like how many episodes we've recorded, and we've only, like, again, like I said, 13 episodes. This is our 13th recording.
Yeah.
Well, really 15th if you count some of just the random conversations that we've recorded that we may or may not release at some point.
Oh, you mean the Patreon episodes? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, do you think, in terms of like order, like, have you thought about that at all? Like, we have all these episodes, and like we're sort of, so far with the 2, we've released them in the order that we've recorded them.
Yeah, I actually, I briefly thought about it, only because I can't find my video for episode 10 for whatever reason. I'm still trying to figure that out. That's odd, but yeah, I thought about it. I mean, there are a few episodes where we clearly state the number of episode, the number episode that we're on.
Mm-hmm.
So that to consider. But honestly, bro, like, aside from that, I really don't care what order. I just want them to drop. I just want to build this show out. Like, I'm not even really, as weird as it may sound, I'm not really too concerned about even like the content of the episode. I'm more concerned about just dropping the episode and just kind of building that inertia.
Okay. Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by, like, because I still want the content to be good.
Of course.
Because I mean, I feel like bad content
all right, maybe
stifle inertia. You know what I mean?
Maybe I phrased it in the wrong way. I feel like right now it's more important for us to be consistent and to drop and to have a schedule.
Sure. Yeah.
And to have an established system in place than, focusing so much on like the actual content right now. I mean, obviously, quality content at the end of the day rules all. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But just in my past experience as a creative, being too quality focused at the very beginning of any vendor could, ultimately lead to the detriment of the project altogether, because you just you're paralyzed because of all the decisions that you think you should be making.
Right. And I agree with that. I mean, you don't want to become a perfectionist right out the gate, because then you're just never going to get out of the gate.
Exactly.
And also, in terms of just like ordering, like say this podcast, something in this podcast makes sense to release earlier on in the sequence. I would rather just release it, like say like something in this episode. So we're recording this today, and for some reason we talk about something that makes more sense to release it as the third episode. I'm not really gonna, even though we talked about it being the 13th recording, like I'm good that we're sort of on the same page that like, you know, we're like the order that we recorded them doesn't necessarily have to be the order that they get released.
No.
Because like
so
again,
maybe I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just going to say,
no, continue. I was done.
We make it a point to not say the number of episode on the podcast, at least for now, until we're somewhat caught up. Right.
But that's why when I do say that, I make it a point to say in real time, this is where we are, but this isn't the episode number. Like this is just recording X word. In a couple of them, I didn't do that, but like at the top of this one, because I had an idea to talk about this, so I just said this is how many we've recorded, and we've released 2, which again I still think it's good that we're so far ahead of ourselves in that, you know, it takes a little bit less pressure off of like, you know, we're so far ahead that we can miss a week of recording and not have to super worry about it as long as something gets out.
Yeah, and it also gives us slack to focus on the other areas that involve this podcast, like social media, which we're trying to figure out right now, and just how to actually market this thing, right? Rather than, you know, and also build the show and produce it, you know, and try to see improvements with every release. You know, like you said, we're in a very good place. But let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What would you be open to the idea once we kind of reach a place, production value wise, where we're like, all right, now we maybe want to accelerate this thing and kind of release the podcast around the time we record it, and like a normal weekly schedule? Like, would you be open to kind of like leading up to that, dropping multiple episodes, like 2 episodes a week until we catch up, once we kind of get the engine going? Or do you like the idea of having that 3-month cushion? I guess it's easy. I would say it's easy now because we really don't know what this podcast is, and it's like, you know, we don't have to necessarily, nothing is really hinged on what's going on commerent affairs, right? You know, like we can talk about whatever, and it, you know, more than likely won't be dated, right? But like as this thing develops and we have a better idea of what's going on, and the production value is, because like, you know, we're 3 months away, right? And like, imagine kind of sitting on 5 episodes and like the production value blows away the next 12 episodes that's going to be released, you know? I mean, at least on my end, that's going to be infuriating because I want to drop that shit, you know?
In terms of that, no, I don't mind. But I just wouldn't want people to get used to, like, in terms of just keeping a consistent release schedule. Like, I won't want people to get used to 2 episodes a week, but we can always, like, you can always just record some sort of prep, like just explain we're in a catch-up period. So like you're gonna be getting a little bit more of the show at this point, and then whatever. Because I do agree that, like, you know, like, so in this episode, we're gonna be talking about, we've already started talking about some, you know, we're 13 in, and even the template now is not the same. Like the template of the first episode and the template of the second episode are different, but then the template of the second episode and the third, fourth, and fifth episode are the same. And then after that, it changes again. And it only improves as it goes on. So for those episodes, like, it doesn't make sense to sort of, for the first 5 episodes at least, it doesn't make sense to out of order release them, because it sort of follows
well, there you go.
But once we get to 5, then I think, you know, it's sort of all bets are off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
we have more leeway.
do whatever we want.
Sure.
And but I think if we were gonna do the 2 week to catch up, or however many, I think this is the time to do it. Like, I mean, we're in the phase where it's sort of, we're just throwing everything at the wall. You know what I mean? So it doesn't, I think right now, even in terms of consistency, like I said, I don't think it matters because we don't have an audience. So they don't know what to expect. So we can do whatever the hell we want right now. And then, so like, yeah, if we want to just start like, you know, throwing out episodes just to catch ourselves up. But I would say let's always maybe try to stay, because we're not a topical podcast, at least not yet. That could be a direction that we go at some point. But, or if we're going to release a topical episode, I feel like that should just get moved to the front of the pack regardless.
But as long as the production is somewhat consistent, right?
Yes.
You know.
But I would say that maybe always being like at least a week, maybe 2 weeks ahead of ourselves isn't a bad idea. But to be, I think 2 weeks, to be 3 months, to be 3 months ahead of ourselves is a lot. So I don't think it would be that big of a deal within the next couple of, like for these next few episodes, maybe we just sort of spit them out.
Yeah, sure. I do like the idea of having the cushion. Because it does provide that safety net. But again, once this engine is built and it's going, man, I definitely would like to have a more traditional approach as far as recording and release is concerned. Absolutely. But I think we both subconsciously kind of created this buffer for ourselves, because we both know that we have a tendency to flake.
Sure.
And it just you know, and this kind of serves as, you know, like I said, a buffer for us to ensure that we are, you know, we stay on course and that we're consistent, and we can build on that inertia we always talk about.
Absolutely, which is why I think, you know, maybe having a 2 week buffer is always safe.
It is. I think that's standard, honestly. I think it's standard. I remember listening to a few podcasts and like they would talk about like, you know, during this time of the recording, it's this, and it'll be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, prior to the release date. You know what I mean? So I think that's standard.
Yeah, there's one podcast who specifically, for topical reasons, state the date at the top of every podcast, and they say every single podcast, you know, we don't want it to run into a situation where something happened over the weekend and you're wondering why we're not talking about it. It's because we're recording here and not here. So I think that is good. Now, in terms of the engine, what would you say we are percentage wise in terms of how much of that has been built?
5.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Like really, no, I mean, I was expecting that to be a very low number. So
yeah, 5%. I mean, like we've you know, it's barely, you know, scratched the surface, honestly. Because when I think of engine, you know, I'm thinking, all right, well, the social media, you know, system is figured out. We have a schedule. We have a system in place where, you know, we record an episode, it's edited, it's chopped down, and it's distilled into the different platforms, you know. On top of that, you know, we have different monetization different ways of making money for the podcast. You know, whether it be sponsorships, directly, you know, we're working with sponsorships directly, or working with, you know, third-party agencies to link us with sponsors. You know, affiliate marketing programs, you know what I mean? The list goes on, you know what I mean? There are a lot of different things that we can set up in order to make this a viable thing. And we, like I said, we barely scratched the surface.
Right. And speaking of sponsorships, we do have our first sponsor.
Yeah, we do.
What's up, kid? Do you love your hometown and want to represent it to the fullest? Of course you do, bud. Whether you're going to the spa, running to Dunks, or driving down the Cape for the weekend, Boston Bread has the perfect gear to keep you looking wicked fresh, dude. Go to bostonbread.com right now and enter offer code WHITCAST to get 10% off your first order. That's WITCAST for 10% off. And remember the motto, guy: Boston born, Boston bred, and when we die, we'll be Boston dead. In terms of like that, because sponsors have been something I have been thinking about.
Okay.
And like monetization, because I did like a lot of those like stupid pop-ups that you'll find on Facebook of like how to start your podcast, how to start your podcast. A lot of them recently I've been noticing, because I sent you a link for one, but then I've noticed a bunch like that have just been popping up, and they're all talking about monetizing right off the bat. Now, what do you feel? How do you feel about something like that? Because that's strange to me to do something like that. I'm trying to understand why they would advise. Like, how do you monetize something that you don't have a handle on?
Well, I mean, the true value of a podcast is the audience, right? The eyes and ears that you have on the podcast. And if you don't have an audience, then where's the value, right? Why would someone want to advertise to an empty room?
Exactly. Like, or to five, like, what's the point of advertising to 5 people?
I don't know, unless like the only way like that it makes sense in my head is if you're some influencer or personality or celebrity that already has a fan base, already has an audience, and there's a deal struck between them and a platform where the platform owns a piece of or all the intellectual property. I don't see where you can make money out the gate.
Right. Also, who are you, like, how are you monetizing right out the gate? Like, what are you doing?
I have no idea. Did you click on the link or the headline to kind of see what they were talking about?
Yeah, it didn't say like usually it's pay us to tell you how to do this.
Yeah, that sounds like multi-level marketing to me.
Exactly.
That's
like
bullshit.
that's the messaging that's going out there right now, and that sort of concerns me in a way.
And and if you're clicking on that link and you're like, and that's what you're focused on, then I kind of feel like you're doing the podcast for wrong reasons. Right. Because the reality is that most podcasts fail. Most podcasts fail to monetize, right? But I do feel like a majority of the reason that is the case is that a lot of these podcasts aren't doing what needs to be done in order to get themselves to that place, right? Like being like, first and foremost, being consistent, having a consistent schedule, constantly improving the production of the show and figuring out ways to improve. And really, I think it's just sticking to it, right? And obviously, building your digital footprint as far as your social media goes, and funneling people to your show, but I feel like if us knowing what needs to be done and where I feel like we are in terms of our will to make this work, I think we can totally do this if we just play it smart and we continue to do what we've been doing.
Yeah. And the thing is in terms, like you said earlier, like we do have the tendency, like in the past we've flaked, but so far, I mean, we've been doing this for months now, man.
We're dead serious,
like this isn't like the times we've tried this before. Like we're in this now. And like in my mind, like we're fucking in this. Like it's out. It started. We're so far ahead of ourselves. Like other people are involved in this. Like it's not just you and me at this point. Like this thing is starting to grow. And like I don't know. I we've built up so much inertia that I don't know. I feel better about it than I ever have. Sorry.
I agree. No. I feel the excitement. I'm right there with you, dude. Like I'm committed. I feel like I wake up and this is one of the very first things that I think about. Not just this podcast, just the idea of a media company altogether.
Yeah, exactly.
The audience doesn't know that, I started producing another podcast called Botulism, It's a podcast about, you know, the darker side of the restaurant industry. And I don't know if that's necessarily how you want to brand it. But we do want, but I think we do want to kind of lift the veil and give people a better understanding of what it takes to actually get a meal onto the table, right?
So like the Kitchen Confidential for the 21st century.
Okay, well, there you go. That's kind of a way to look at it. Yes. So, you know, that's exciting, and that's a separate entity that we have birthed and that we are going to nurture and grow to add to this network, this media conglomerate that we are building.
Right, exactly. And like that's how I look at it. And I mean, like even you and I outside of this are working on just another project just to build things up,
which we should work on
at all at the moment, because
at the moment, but no, when we make it really fucking cool, we're gonna put it up
right
for the world.
Exactly. But I mean that's the thing. It's like my mind is never not thinking about any of this lately.
I want to be able to. I want to get to the point. I want to get to the point where, like, if we're not recording, we're editing. We're all day, every day. Because that's essentially like that's what a media company is. You know what I mean? And like today, I was actually kind of excited. I was a little disappointed that the Botch's podcast fell through. At least recording it today was because like today would have been the first day I felt like a media company. You know what I mean? Like I was recording one podcast, right,
and then going to another one,
to another one, and recording that one, and at the end probably piecing together the edits. You know, the first pass for both episodes. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you know, next time it's happening. You know,
and like when I do like, because I mean I have a kid, I need to get a job. But like in my head, it's like when I get home, I'm in this, you know what I mean? Like, because he's only up, like I'm only gonna see him for a fucking hour, and Leslie also goes to bed immediately. So then, from like 7 to like 1 in the morning, this is where my head is. You know what I mean? Like that's so. Just so you know, like that's because like you said,
I'm for it.
Like you said, this is like my eyes open. And I'm checking the YouTube analytics, and I'm looking at the like our Facebook page, and like our shit is the first. Like before I even look at my personal stuff, our shit is the first shit that I'm looking at.
No, I love it, man, and I love you. I gotta say, I love your commitment. You know what I mean? Like you've definitely you made a 180 since, you know, the Who the Fuck Are We podcast. You know what I mean? And like you're serious. I know like your life was kind of on fire at the time,
right? But I mean, even if it were to burn up again, I just feel like we have the ball rolling so well right now.
I agree.
That it's sort of it's hard to stop. There's too many moving parts in my head right now for this to just dead stop.
I'd feel foolish. I'd feel foolish about stopping. And like, you know, like going back to what I was saying, like with you kind of like, you know, turning around just like your approach and your attitude towards this. Like I feel a lot of the times like, all right, well, I got, he's holding me accountable in a way, you know what I'm saying? He's showing up, so I gotta show up now too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we just kind of build off of each other. And that's the kind of culture that I want to build, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not enough to just, you know, want to do great work.
Right.
You want to do great work for your teammates, you know, you want to do right by them. And, you know, I can't imagine a better mindset to do your absolute best.
Right. And I think team is the best, because that's what a team is. It's holding each other accountable and just making sure everybody's showing up and getting it done. And that's that's what it is. And, you know, I just feel like I've been in projects before where it's just like everybody had great intentions and then it always just falls apart. And then I'm just so tired of that fucking happening that like, I don't care. I'm strapping this shit onto my back and we're just going to run into the fucking wall until we break through it.
Yeah, that's bottom line. And that's kind of the curse of the creative, right?
Yeah.
Just the lack of structure around their creations and their ideas. You know, you have some individuals who have phenomenal ideas. Their brains as idea generators are just a sight to behold sometimes, but it never gets past that point of ideation because there's no execution. There's no, they rely on inspiration for any kind of movement. And, you know, unfortunately, when we're talking about an engine, inspiration is only the spark plug. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have the whole machine that you have to account for, and the only way you're gonna get that thing going is through the grind. That's
Right.
it.
And I think like just sort of to reiterate in sort of a different way is like a lot of creatives are waiting for it to happen to them and don't
It's
realize
never
that they
gonna
need
happen.
to make it happen.
It's never gonna happen unless
Right.
you make it happen.
And
You
like
know?
that's the hardest lesson I think for creative people to learn is that, you know, and for me, like in my life, like there was a lot of times in my life where I was just like, well, maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and the perfect thing will just be there for me. And you know what? It never is. And it's never going to
Never.
be. Like you,
No,
like
never is.
anything you have, you need to will into existence.
So I've been trying to do make a beat a day, and I fell off the past week and a half hard, unfortunately. And I was listening to a podcast. No, I was listening to a book. Um, it says my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, you're
I'm still
slowing
here,
down a
right?
little bit. Yeah, you're still there, but it
Okay.
stopped for a minute. Now you're fine.
Okay. So I was listening to an audio book. Said the 15 Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. He's the guy who wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, right?
Yeah, I've
So,
seen that. Yeah.
yeah. So I was listening to this book. He was talking about John Williams and how John Williams, no matter what, every single day writes a piece of music. Just writes it for the sake of writing. More often than not, it sucks. But he makes it a point to write a piece of music. If not, he's working on a personal project, or he's working on a legendary film score, right?
Another one.
Another one, right? You know, and it's just made me think, man. It's just like, yo, at the end of the day, even the greats, man, like that's one rule you can't escape. You have to do something every day, if not every other day, at least somewhat consistently.
You have to get to your 10,000 hours.
That's it. That's it. You have to get to your 10,000 hours. And when you get to that point, like if you're putting 10,000, like truly, like you're really giving 10,000 like hours of honest effort. I can't imagine that you just can't help but see how far you can take it, right? You put in that much work and you're obviously really good at what you do. At this point, like it's legacy, right? It's like, how good can you really be? Can you kind of push the boundaries and set a new bar? I can't imagine, I can't help but imagine that would just be thrilling, you know, like you just every single day just living in the space of greatness. Obviously you got to balance, you know, being a human being, and you know a lot of that sucks, but outside of that, that sense of purpose that you must have, to that sense of destiny, I can't think of a better way to live.
No, and neither can I. But I think because anybody can say like this is the dream, but once you make it feel like it, like I think destiny is the good word, is a good word. You know, I think that's something. Destiny is something. Unfortunately, you know, you're sort of taught that like your destiny will just happen to you. And no, sometimes like you need to fight for your destiny. Like if you feel deeply within yourself that this is what your life is supposed to be, this is what you're supposed to do, and that's on you to get there. And like I do, like, because there are times where I do feel like it is like a destiny to own, or you know, be part of a multimedia company. Like I feel like that's what I was supposed to do because I love all this different stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm creative minded, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And you know, I think, you know, all of the errors I've made in my life have brought me to this point right here. And
I agree,
brought
because
like
because what's wild is it's like we're good at this stuff and we suck at everything else.
Right, exactly.
Right? Including like life shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
I'm awful at life.
Like I'm terrible at life, but but this is something, but it's funny, this, whatever this is, this just being creative, like it's trying to figure out how to be mediocre in the other areas where I really suck at it makes it worthwhile. You know what I mean? Like it's I almost kind of look at it as me earning the right and the ability to be a fuller expression of myself as a creative.
Yeah, like striving for general mediocrity to achieve cold greatness.
Why is that not a t-shirt? That's got to be put somewhere. God damn it. That just sounds so American.
Yeah, that's capitalism.
Yeah, dude. I feel really good about all of this.
Yeah.
Not every day is, unicorns and daffodils, obviously.
But it's not going to be. I mean, we're gonna have some really fucking terrible days. And there's gonna be days like we have to know that there are gonna be days where you and I are gonna get really mad at each other.
Well, that's just that's only because we care. Right. And I would imagine during that time the stakes are high. You know what I mean? But like, as long as our the basis, the root of our relationship is the basis of our relationship is rooted in respect.
Yes.
And the love and the creation of the love for the creation that we are that we're creating right now. Like it's I think we'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I, you don't strike me as a disrespectful person. I'm not a disrespectful person. And
everybody has their moments. You know what I mean? Like it's unavoidable sometimes to just be disrespectful to somebody else.
Unless you walk in drunkenly, extend your hand and like my nigga.
Yeah, well, I mean, I might just do that sober, but
No, that'll be a great day. That's kind of like I think that will breach like a new barrier in our relationship, because like it's kind of like the fart barrier in a relationship. Like once you kind of fart in front of your girlfriend, it's kind of like marriage is the only thing left, right?
Right, but sometimes you want that to go back to the way it was before.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. With a lot of successful people. When they're asked about what don't you like about your current situation, your fame or success, or what do you wish could be different? A lot of the times, like one of the responses would be they kind of miss the grind, right? They kind of miss that just that uncertainty. And that doubt, but kind of fighting through it. That sense of purpose, like that the idea of making it gave them. And I can kind of understand that. I mean, obviously I haven't experienced it, but like I can understand that, because I would imagine like certainty is boring, right? There's no thrill in that, so I think you kind of need that balance of high stakes and self-preservation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's like, the journey is more important than the destination, because the journey is where the excitement is. Like when you get to where you're going, it's just like you can relax, and that's the end. Like when the hunger goes away, when you lose the eye of the tiger, then Clubber Lang is going to put you on your fucking ass. And that's just how it goes down. Like that's what life is. Once you are just at the top and you're just like, I don't care anymore, I'm fine, then that's when you're going to start to fuck up.
And that's when you develop a drug and hooker problem.
Right, exactly. So like you sort of always need to have your competitive edge. You know what I mean?
So how do you
have to keep making new stuff. I mean, that's the thing. It's like once you've gotten to one mountaintop, you need to look to the next one. Like you need to never stop climbing.
Yeah, and so that just means that you have to make sure that your intentions are set, right? If you are working solely for improving your circumstances, once you achieve what you achieve, then what's next? It's funny, like, while you were talking, the idea that struck was an interview a couple of years back that I watched of Kobe Bryant, obviously. And he talked about how after winning one of his 5 championships, being confused about being depressed, really depressed. I mean, here's a man who's on top of the mountain, right? The pinnacle of his profession, of the sport, already considered one of the greatest of all time during the time of this championship, and being depressed. For somebody who's not, well versed in psychology, that would be confusing, right?
Right.
But it makes sense, right? It's the hunt, it's the thrill of the hunt, the uncertainty of not achieving your goals. There was a fighter, Kate Zingano, that was on Joe Rogan's podcast, who talked about how she hated fights going to the judges, right? I was like, yeah, it's a contest. Fighters are generally safe. They have a third man in there whose job is to make sure one doesn't kill the other.
Right.
But as a fighter, as a warrior, and a woman with a warrior spirit, she has to know, meaning if both her and her opponent went to the forest and they had to fight it out, who's the one that's gonna come out with the bone? And the way she said that was chilling.
Yeah.
Who's gonna come out with the bone? You know what I mean? I don't know where I was going with that. I know it was related to what you were just saying. I kind of went.
Well, it's about like not losing that competitive edge. Kobe.
Well, yeah. So yeah, exactly. So like basically it's I think going back to Kobe, I think ultimately what he realized is that his intentions were not set in the right place. It's not about the championships. It's about being the best Kobe Bryant that he could possibly be, and performing at a high level for as long as he possibly could. And he did for 20 years.
Yeah, he fucking did.
Yeah.
Now, do you think fulfillment is something that can ever be truly attained? And if it is attained, do you think that that's actually a bad thing?
Yes. But fulfillment is a lot like rent, right? Like, yeah, you can pay your rent, but you still got to pay rent for the following month. You know what I mean? You still got to pay your dues. You still got to work in order to pay for that fulfillment. Fulfillment isn't a state. Fulfillment is a journey, right? It's a series of states strung together, both quote unquote good and bad, I think. Because I truly feel like the purpose of existence is to propagate existence and to evolve, and to, I don't like the word improve, but to change and to learn and to evolve. Evolve is the word that I'm looking for. And the reason why human beings are live life of all this angst and in search for fulfillment and purpose is to be one of the engines that propagates evolution. Am I making any sense? Is this all too abstract?
So what? I mean, it's an abstract conversation.
Yeah. It's just, like I was reading this book by Ray Dalio, Principles, and he talks about this concept. He introduced me to this concept, and then it just made too much sense, right? The whole doesn't exist for you. You exist for the whole. Individuals, animals, any living entity, more often than not gets penalized or punished for going against the whole. For example, if you go into a Asian massage parlor and shoot shit up, you will be punished for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like as you should.
Yeah.
Right? As you should. Right? But if you create a process that, you know, in turn feeds a population a lot more efficiently, then you should be rewarded with, you know, obviously, you know, prestige and money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where this is all going. I kind of went on a weird tangent there.
All right, take a breath. Think about
Sorry.
And just take it out in the edit. Just take a minute.
I'm in the weeds. I completely branched off. I don't even have reference points I can think of.
Evolution, propagation.
But what were we originally talking about?
I don't know, man. That was like 20 minutes ago.
So you have permission to stop me if I go into a place that just doesn't seem like it's gonna, you know, come. I'm gonna be able to.
Yeah, but I really wanted to see where that was going.
Yeah, sorry. All right. New topic.
I mean, we're talking about ambition, and I mean that's really what we've been talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
And ambition as like destiny is something to be achieved. It's not something to be granted.
100. You got to earn it, baby.
That's like I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm done sitting on my ass, and I'm gonna make this happen. And I because there's it's not like I have to prove it. There's some people I have to prove stuff to, because I feel like there's always at least one external person you have to prove something to. But I have to prove it to myself that I can do this. That this is what I want, so this is what I'm gonna have. And you know, all of my mistakes have brought me to this place, have brought me, you know, to you.
that was touching, Dave.
Yeah,
that was very touching.
And you know, I had to pause. Like we've talked in the past, like men can't just be like that. but it's the truth. Like all my mistakes brought me to this place right here, to these conversations. And it's you know, there are aspects of destiny, I guess, where it will spit the right people at you, and it's up to you to utilize your relationships with those people in the correct way, because you can I have creative synergy with a lot of people, but not every one of them I'm going on a lifelong fucking business venture with, because that's sort of what this would turn into. It's you know, it becomes a sort of marriage, for lack of a better word. It's a sort of you know,
it's a partnership. It's right.
If this is something we're building to, you know, better our lives and better ourselves and do whatever, that's a lifelong goal. That's not we're gonna do this for 5 years and then we're gonna fuck off. It's no, this is we're building.
Nah, man. Dude, if me fucking off means that, you know, eventually down the road I will more than likely end up clinically depressed.
Right.
It's the work that makes me happy.
Right. Yeah. This is
the building of something, creating something. I am a creative. You know, it is I am wired to make stuff. And if I'm not making stuff, I'm just a miserable prick. Why this is why I exist. Right? This is my contribution to society, right? This manifesting the chaos that ensues in my mind.
But yeah, so this is right. So it's not just a 5-year journey. It's a lifelong
No.
journey. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
is to like till
Yeah.
the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I do know what you mean. And you know, you know, and it's not just about like a company. You know what I mean? Like it's a company is the structure. It's what, you know, allows us to make transactions that hopefully funnels into our bank account so we can feed ourselves and our families.
Right.
But it's about, you know, being building something, legacy, right? I'm sure
Yes.
you want to leave something for your boy, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not just money or making him a trust fund baby, but like
No.
creating an environment where the bar of his potential dramatically increases because you built this thing.
Right.
You know, you built the springboard for him to shoot off.
Right. It's important, you know, and you know, I think that's exactly it. Like it's legacy. We're trying to build our legacies.
We ain't getting any younger, bro. You
No,
know,
and
shit's starting to hurt. I'm getting fat. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting grumpy, grays everywhere. You know what I mean? And before you know it, my dick will stop working. You know what I mean? I need to have something.
but I think that's a thing that sort of like stops a lot of people, which I think is a problem. Where like you're sort of taught that if you haven't done something amazing by the time you're like 25, then fucking give up. And I don't agree with that. Like the older I get, and maybe it's just because I haven't done anything great yet. Well, relative, like I would say, you know, creating a life is a pretty amazing thing, um, but you know, I just think that's wrong. I think certain people
It is
start at
wrong.
different points. You know what I mean? Like because yeah, we're getting older, but we're not fucking old. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
we're not old. We're still relatively young. You know what I mean? I kid about being older, but I still, you know, I still have I'm still sound of mind.
right.
You know, I may not be able to, you know, play a game of pick up basketball, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I used to, but like, you know, I can still do things, especially being a creative. Like I'm not an athlete, you know, like around this time is, you know, if I haven't retired, you know, I'm on my way to retiring at the age I'm at right now. But like I'm a creative, you know, like I can do this till the day I die, as long as I have my wits about me. You know?
Yeah, and sometimes in being creative, wisdom only fuels deeper creativity. Like, sure, you make some great stuff when you're young, but there are tons of people who make even better stuff when they're older.
Dude, honestly, if I were to have a conversation with my 16-year-old self and I was able to lay out the knowledge that I currently have and the skill set that I have, I'd be proud of myself, you know, and I take comfort in knowing that.
As you should.
You know, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, and I want to continue to do that. I want to be 70 years old and be like, holy fucking shit. You know what I mean? Like, I really did do it my way. You know, I didn't conform to a society telling me that I needed to develop myself into just another cog in the machine. Right. I developed the way that I wanted to. I sought after the things that I was interested in. And I explored the, you know, life the way that I wanted to, you know, that's I can't think of a better way to kind of look back on life and to feel content, you know, with what you did, with the gift that you were given of life.
Right. And for me, I mean, that's a big thing. Like I haven't lived life the way I was supposed to at all. Like I didn't go to college right off the bat. Like I've just lived life and sort of made what seemed like a lot of the wrong decisions, but like sometimes the wrong decisions could lead you in the right direction for you. Sometimes they don't.
But do you think Quentin Tarantino would be Quentin Tarantino if he finished high school and he went to college?
No. I think Quentin Tarantino needed to quit wherever he quit and start working in a video fucking store I need to stop swearing so much.
I thought about that. Yeah, I thought about that 5 minutes ago, but go ahead. I'm sorry, continue.
That I need to stop swearing so much.
No, I need to stop swearing so much.
Yeah, we need to clean, but whatever. Whatever.
Fuck it.
Yeah, I think he needed to like he needed to go in that direction to become arguably the greatest director of, well, at least the 90s, in my opinion.
Oh, he was definitely the after Pulp Fiction on. You know what I mean? He like ruled the next decade, you know?
Right. Like he hasn't, in my opinion, he hasn't made one bad movie. Now, if he had gone to film school and got a whole bunch of like hard, fast rules and shit put into his head, would he still be great? Yeah, but he probably would have been more conventional.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, and if it wasn't for Tarantino, I mean, like, what are some of the movies that we probably wouldn't have seen that was influenced by his style of movie?
Right. Or just, yeah, tons of directors. Like I don't think we wouldn't have like a David Fincher getting his, like a Seven doesn't exist without Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? Like darker, more adult sort of movies. And you know, but that's the thing. So like me not doing all this stuff, like there has to be a reason, or you would hope that there's a reason for it, and it's not just like that I'm just a lazy procrastinating asshole.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be a reason why I went this way. And I think I know what that reason is.
And that is
to do this. Like obviously I've done things the way I've wanted to do things my whole life.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to do. And this isn't something that you necessarily need to go to school to do. This is something that you just do.
You just got to do it. Yeah, man. Right. Like, I, you know, I ran into somebody who I'll name nameless, who will remain nameless, I should say. And, you know, they would always talk about them wanting to pursue a type of creative endeavor. And they would just always talk about it, man. And it's just like, you know, I've gotten to a point where I just feel bad because I realize that I too suffer from the same kind of mindset where you think that in order to be the said thing, whether it be filmmaker, whether it be a producer, you know, some kind of creative, that you need to get to a certain place in order to call yourself that. But you just have to do the thing.
Right.
If you want to be a filmmaker, the moment you get a piece of paper and you start writing lines, you immediately just became a filmmaker. Right now, there are different degrees and there are different levels. And if it stays on paper, then, you know, you're just a script writer at that point, right?
Right. But if that's still a film, that's still something.
Exactly. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But you're doing the thing, and that's, you know, just that, you know, that mindset that you need to get to a certain place. It only paralyzes you, and it then translates into procrastination, you know, and before you know it, you have a lifetime of would've, couldas, and shouldas.
Right. And like to make it happen, you need to stop living up here, because I think that's where a lot of creatives just spend all their time, is right here.
Yeah.
And it never comes out.
Yeah.
And that's like the creative. Like, yeah, like if you want to be a writer, write. Just write.
That's it. You're a writer. Yeah. You're a writer. You gotta do the thing. And it's sad, man, because how I am feeling, like, you know, the way I feel when individuals like this, you know, will talk about their dreams and aspirations, and you just like, you come to a point where you just stop taking them seriously. It makes me look back and like, how many people kind of, you know, felt the same way about me all those times that I've proclaimed these grand ideas and these accolades that I plan on achieving, and nothing came of it. You know, the times where a year later they would see me in the street like, yeah, whatever happened to that? And I'm like, oh, this, that, and the other, or it ain't right, or this happened to that. You know, back when we were trying to do that web series, you know, it's just like I had met people like a year later, like, so whatever happened to that?
Right.
I remember sending photos of like all the equipment, nothing happened. You know what I mean? Just a couple of clips to show for it all, you know, and it's tough.
Right. And I just think this can't be one of those things.
Nah, man. Nah, man. I'm treating this like this is like my last chance. I know the dangers of that kind of thinking, but like I'm treating it like, as far as drumming up that sense of urgency,
yeah,
I'm kind of looking at it like that, you know.
Well, I think that's a good, because I'm kind of personally, this is kind of my last chance. You know, because like things are going a lot faster in my personal life. So if this is going to happen, this needs to the ground where like we need the foundation. I need the foundation now. And
Yeah.
thing is it's happening.
Yeah.
Like I think
Yeah.
for certain people in my life, like showing them that there's a registered name for connected to the thing that we're doing. So certain people legitimized it more than it's ever been legitimized in the past. Like, no, this is a thing. Like people like this is a thing. You know, this isn't just some whatever thing, because there's just been too many projects, too many things that have just come told people about. Like I can think of a lot of people right now who are just like, who if I said I was going to do this would probably just roll their eyes at me.
Yeah. And that's why, like, at the end of the year, I want to have something that you can link to and be like, hey, I've done this. You know what I mean? There's a body of work here. You can see improvements. You can see the progression. And on top of that, I'm sure there'll be other projects that we'll be able to show people.
And that's proudly to build. Like this is just a piece of a larger thing.
Yeah. That's it, you know, and I feel good about it, man. I feel good about it. Where would you like to be at with this podcast at the end of the year? Like, what would be some goals or milestones?
I would like, to have at least enough episodes that have been out, but to already have not a large audience, but a small dedicated audience. Okay. By the end of the year, which I mean, we're not even halfway through the year yet.
Yeah, that's I believe that we'll be able to do that.
So I just want to have a small dedicated audience by the end, like enough that it's a thing. You know what I mean? Just for this podcast. Like for the larger thing as a whole, like I'd want to have like a couple more shows going.
Yes, for sure.
At least a couple more. I mean, there's already the one, but like even for me, I'd like to have another show going. Like you're working on another show, I'd like to be working on another, like just to have more shit going on.
Sure.
But for this podcast, I'd like to have a small dedicated audience, and just an audience. That's not just people we know. Like that's also just random people.
Just a Whitcast community.
Exactly. So I'd like to see that really starting to solidify by the end of the year. What about you?
That I definitely would love to have a small audience, an engaged audience that we're cultivating. I also would like to have like all the technical shit set up. Yes. Like I'd like to have the different segments set up. I'd like to have sponsors set up, whether it be working with them directly or working with third-party agencies to kind of link us with them. I would like to have the podcast as a show and as a business established. Yes. And just a sturdy foundation to kind of build off for 2022.
Yeah, I'd also like it to start generating revenue, not profit, but revenue.
Yeah. And profit is not going to be too hard as far as
we haven't sunk that much money. Like for us to be profitable isn't difficult.
No, it isn't because there's very low barrier to entry. You know what I mean? There's only the minimal cost for the services that we need in order to get this, keep this, the show running. So let me ask you, I don't mean to keep
just ask the question.
But do you worry about this podcast putting so much effort? No, but do you worry about putting this much effort into a podcast this formless?
No, I think this is genius.
Okay. All right.
Because it's constantly, this format is constantly getting us to, like, we have to keep thinking about this. Like, I don't like to, there's a part of me that never wants it to become formed. You know what I mean? Like, I just
Yeah.
think like it's such a broad idea that we can do whatever we want. And like just with the name, what is this podcast? It allows us that if it's starting to form, like I would even love to just be like, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do
Yeah.
this now. And to have an audience that expects that, because it's constantly keeping us on our toes. We constantly
Yeah.
have to keep changing what we're doing. We're going to repeat ourselves a whole fuckload of times. We're going to stop swearing at a certain point. But
No.
whatever. It's just we're going to keep it, because it's so formless. It's the possibilities are endless, and that makes it way more exciting.
No, I'm glad that you have that perspective.
Well, what's your perspective?
Well, it's really more training than it is perspective. Because you got to keep in mind, I have been in marketing for 15 years, right? And I have the concepts of branding and niche marketing, especially in this day and age, with there being a gazillion brands out there. Really, niche marketing is very, very important as a key differentiator in the market. And as I'm talking this out loud, I guess that is our key differentiator. I mean, the fact that where formless is niche in a weird way, right? Because there's not, like, I haven't come across anybody that is doing a similar idea, but it's just I feel like it just, again, it's training, and I need concrete ideas to kind of build around,
but being undefined is a concrete idea.
Yeah, it is, but like
that's
this idea, the idea of like what's on brand and what's not.
Everything,
right? Well, that's the problem, right? Because it's not niche. It's not. I can't wrestle down the bull, right? I can't wrestle down the bull.
But you're not supposed to.
I know, and it bothers me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I have faith in us.
Sure.
I have faith in us. But I'd be lying to you if that thought gets across my mind. I'm not worried to the point where I want to stop and rebrand and all that. I'm in it. You know what I mean?
Sure,
like,
but what is your solution as of right now?
I don't know. Well, I mean, the only other solution is to take form, right? And that means doing away with this podcast, which I don't want to do. I don't want to do that.
So do we just rebrand as This Is a Podcast?
No, that's terrible.
Exactly.
That takes away from the juice of the idea altogether. No, but kind of listening to your, honestly, bro, like listening to your perspective, it kind of put me at ease a little bit, because like I didn't think about the fact that we literally can like do whatever, right? We can come up with different segments. We can experiment with different things.
Right.
What the benefit of that is, so this is not going to be the only show that we're going to be developing. We can use this as the petri dish, right, for our media company. So like when we, start developing shows that do have concrete concepts and have a specific niche, we'll just take from the elements that we've already tried out in the show and figure out what's the better fit. Yeah, I like that idea.
Like this show is just our experiment. It's just our ongoing, never-ending experiment.
I really like that idea. Because yes, we're gonna try to monetize this thing and try to, make actual real dollars. But like that shifts my focus a little bit, right? Because like, well, it's 100% okay if this show doesn't monetize or doesn't have a huge audience, because it still serves a major function and purpose within our organization, right? It's building us up in order to build up everything else around us.
I mean, there could be times like just to fuck with people where you and I aren't even on this podcast.
Continue. I don't want to talk too much, but please continue. But yes,
like where people show up and it's just two other random people,
kind of like Bad Friends and Two Bears One Cave, right?
Wars. Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes
that was brilliant.
Yeah,
dude, I woke up that morning, bro. I woke up that morning, bro, and I saw Tom and Bert on the Bad Friends field. I'm like, what is going on? I like, all right, because sometimes like they'll do skits in the beginning and like they'll have their guests like Chrissy Chaos do a skit or something like that in front of, you know what I mean, and then they'll have a regular show. But no, it was an entire. Did you watch both episodes?
I just watched the Bad Friends one. I didn't watch Bobby and I forget his name on the other
Bobby Chris Santino. You know what's wild is like, so they had 3 phone conversations, I believe, in the podcast.
Yeah, and Tom
if you go to the
up
show,
on
yeah, but if you go to the other show, you're watching them have that conversation. So
on the other
hear
side,
Bobby. Dude, it's fucking brilliant, man. It was absolutely brilliant. And you know who Stevie Weeby is, right?
Yeah, it's Bobby Lee's brother. Yeah.
So you know about the Good Friends
podcast, yeah.
Right. So did you hear the fallout from that? Hear about the fallout from that?
No.
So Andrew, apparently, and I don't know if they're doing this for marketing purposes, and if they are, it's brilliant because we're talking about this on our podcast,
right?
But so apparently, Santino was pissed, right, livid that because it was supposed to be originally like a April Fool's joke, right? It was a one-off,
right?
But the reception was so huge that they were like, well, should we kind of continue doing this? And Andrew was talking about it being theft, and he was threatening lawyers to sue his co-host's little brother, right, for a parody, for a gag, right? So I actually just watched the first like 10 minutes of their. That
makes me feel a little not great towards Santino. Like,
you know what, dude? You know what's fucked up? Because I immediately watched a few minutes of their latest podcast. I remember walking away from the TV. I was like, yo, I kind of feel a certain way about Santino right now.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't like that.
That's a little weird. I feel
like
funny
he's a comedian and he can't deal with that.
Well, and here's the thing. Comedians are all fucked up individuals, right? He is dark and twisted in his own ways. And I feel like, because I mean, here's the reality. Cheeto's only been really popular on this level for like a couple of years.
Sure.
Right? Whiskey Ginger still isn't doing nearly as well as Bad Friends.
No.
Right? So this is his baby, right? I can't imagine being a putrid redhead, like with putrid red hair, right? Coming from Chicago, in LA. I mean, you want to talk about like, you are like the boss stepchild, right? You are like the stepchild boss at the end of a level, right? Like, and he didn't see success for like years.
Right.
And, with this show being as big as it has been, and like since the crossover, they've been doing $500,000 per episode. Like they really blew up off of that. It was brilliant marketing. You know what I mean? So I can kind of see why he would be upset, but to threaten lawyers to like not be able to talk it out,
or just see that's great. It's still great marketing for your show. Like the two shows, then just you have the Good Friends and the Bad Friends, and that the crossovers and the different there's just so much potential in
Yeah,
Brandon
man.
out of
Yeah,
that.
man.
That's I don't know. That's very short-sighted for him to be getting that
I
upset about
I
it.
I agree, but he is a hot-blooded redhead, right? He does have a temper, and
A lot
something
of
tells me that
a
he
lot of
stop.
redhead hate going on.
I know, because I make fun because he makes fun of himself, and I'm a big Cheeto fan, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Cheeto was one of those comedians that I thought his comedy wasn't for me, but as I got to know him,
Yeah.
I really come to fucking like, and you know, I mean, that's just me. That's part of my love that I have for him. The fact that he's so redheaded, but he's like oddly redheaded. He's like orange.
He's like
that
that dude is Gaelic. Like that's
you know, but like he's still like no homo, but he's still a handsome, he's a good looking guy. You know what I mean? He's not like a bad looking dude.
Sure.
But he's just weird looking. I just can't, you know what I mean? Like if you walk into a room, I'd stare at him for 10 minutes because like, what the fuck is that? But yeah, I feel kind of weird. I feel kind of weird now, you know. Dude, like it's all in good fun.
But was there tension
know,
between him and Bobby?
No. So what happened was on so the Good Friends is now called Scissor Bros, and and their logo is an illustration of them both scissoring.
Yeah, the good.
Right. But so I watched like the first 15 minutes of the first of their now third episode of Scissor Bros. And Steve pulled out a recording of conversation he had playing Warfare with his brother Bobby. And Bobby was explaining like what happened. It's like, yo, man, Santino was fucking pissed, man. He was livid. I've never seen him this mad. He threatened lawyers, this, that, and the other. And so here's the thing. The Slep King is a pathological liar, right? So we don't even really know if Andrew got as mad as he did.
Right. Because I'm thinking like if Bob, like how do we know Bobby's not just fucking around? Like, because that sounds like something he would do.
That's, you know, like.
Especially to his brother.
You know? But all right, you know, sidebar though. I'm ask you another question.
Okay.
Do you think Bobby really got molested by somebody with Down syndrome?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's possible, but I don't know. I think Bobby does a lot of things. And a lot of those things.
And how he's so like open about him like sucking dick in the past and like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
He's just but that's one of the things I love about him. It's like you can never really tell. You can never really tell where he's coming from.
I will say this with Bobby has helped me with shame, oddly enough, right? Because he has so very little shame.
Yeah. I mean, he openly admits to shitting multiple times in his vehicle.
In the Frisbee in the back, that story with Kalila, she had to clean it up.
Yeah.
Bro, dude, I was dying. And Steve was on that episode.
Yeah.
And Steve started dying. He's like, you're just like father.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, so funny, man. I love Steve, man. And that's part of the reason why I feel funny towards Andrew, because Steve has always struggled, right? He's 45, however he is, and he still lives in a studio apartment in LA, rent control.
Which is weird because he looks like he's in his 20s. It's like straight up.
He's Korean, you know, like
Bobby Lee looks old. Like Bobby Lee looks like he's gone through life. His brother doesn't.
Fucking Bobby Lee, man. I'm so glad that he like finally made it. I mean, he had Mad TV. But like he had nothing going on after that up until like 5 years ago.
Yeah, he was a bit player. Like he popped up.
You know, he did commercials here, you know, here and there. But like, you know, if it wasn't until when Kalila came into and said like we're doing this podcast, his career just took off. I need a Kalila. I need to find my Kalila.
Doesn't everybody?
You know, I need to find my Kalila. Just a crazy bitch that makes me better.
that's the dream, right?
Yeah, that's the dream.
But yeah, I don't know. Bobby Lee, I don't know. I love him, but I feel like you can't trust a lot of the things that he
Yeah,
says.
and Kalila said it.
And
I forget which
not in a
podcast.
fucked up way, just in,
Well, I mean, that's what he's a comedian, and like I look at these shows as one long episode of improv, really,
yeah.
right? Where I don't take everything they say 100 like seriously, unless they like kind of preface their conversation with like, well, especially last year with 2020 fucking burning the hell the way that it did. There were times where they touched on serious subjects, but other than that, like I think part of the appeal is wondering whether or not this is the truth, whether or not they're being serious. You know what I mean? I think that's part of the appeal too. It's like, yo, is he being fucking serious right now? Like, does he really like wake up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning? And like, how is he?
No, in the afternoon.
And no, that's what I meant. In the afternoon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, how is
like, how do you function like that?
But but there are plenty of people that can live like sure. How are you going to be as successful as you are?
But that's what I mean.
That kind of schedule, you know, like, yeah, dude. But I love those shows. I love that circle. You know what I mean? And that's we have to thank Joe Rogan for all of that, all of it. And the reason why I say that is because Joe started making money in the podcast, and what he did was, and I'd hear multiple comics say this, was like he would like, all right, so this is how you make money off the podcast, and he started doing it with Bert, especially when Bert was doing the National Geographic show. I forget the name of the show he did a few years ago, and it took time away from his comedy, and Joe like one day was just like, Bert, what the fuck are you doing? You should be stand up, do a podcast, stop this shit. You shouldn't be doing the show. Started doing a podcast, and look where Bert's at now, man. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of the leading comics in the country, and if it wasn't for Joe Rogan, like that whole brood, like that whole Comedy Store brood, like they've revolutionized podcasts as far as I'm concerned,
they did. They did. Like, podcasts were going a certain way, and then again, I think a lot of it comes into like the video stuff and just different things, and like you sort of the older model, and Joe Rogan brought in the newer model, and that's just how it goes.
What's interesting when you think about it, Joe, like, it's still very plain. The show still is very plain. It's not these. You don't see these graphics.
No, it's just him and the mics in the room. Did he change his room again?
He did.
Good.
I think he listened. Yeah, because it looks like fucking Kowloon's, dude. Remember, like, it looked like you were either inside some Chinese.
I thought he was in a radiator. Like, I thought they were sitting in a radiator.
Like a sauna. Like, I was gonna say, like a sauna. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And he got that. You should have brought back Jimmy. Just should have brought back that image of Jimmy. That the what do you call the jail pics?
Mugshots. Yeah.
Yeah, the mugshot. Remember, he used to have the mugshot of Jimi Hendrix.
Yep.
Let's bring that back. Should have just brought that back.
Yeah, but it was nice to see the red curtain.
Yeah, all behind the sign. Yeah, I didn't even notice that. Now that you mentioned it, yeah, he did bring back the red curtain.
But yeah, I mean, that's just, and like that's sort of what you strive to be. That's what you hope to get to.
Yeah, dude. But I'm excited about just content creation, man, because it's not going to stop at podcasts. Podcast is what we can conceivably grasp right now with our abilities and where we're at in life. I feel like this is the best form of content that we can build off of. But like, once we get this studio, we're gonna designate different corners for different things. We'll have a wall for green screen. We'll have a corner to record our podcast,
right?
And other podcasts. We'll have
eventually. You want to think beyond podcasting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a media company, right? And the folk, and I feel like the best. I don't know, and I'm not gonna pretend like I know what I'm doing, but in my mind, the best approach as of right now is to focus on the content generation machine, that content engine, the ability to make stuff and, get to a point where whatever is presented to us, we can figure out a solution for.
Yes. Exactly. That's how you should always start. Like, this is the beginning. This is like, because we can't move further until we know those things.
Yeah.
And again, just in this podcast, we just need to, I think, embracing, every podcast is defined by something.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't an undefined podcast where we can literally like sometimes it's not us. Sometimes it's another show. Like 1 week it's just botulism.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say botulism. It says, what is this podcast? Like it's springboarding. But generally it's you and me doing whatever. And sometimes we don't even have to talk about anything. We can just fucking, it would be hilarious to have a 20-minute episode where we're just staring at each other for 20 minutes.
While we're laughing at each other the entire time, because we're not going to be able to fucking.
Right. And it's just it's undefined ridiculousness.
No, I like it. No, I feel a lot better about this idea, to be honest with you. Not that I didn't feel good about it, but I had concerns. Because what are we working towards? And the idea of this kind of being like the testing grounds, and a place for us to develop our skills as conversationalists and as producers.
Right.
I feel a lot better because, nothing will be wasted. All of our learnings will somehow benefit for us in the near future.
Yeah. Honestly, right now, I want this episode to come out early. I want this to be one of the next episodes.
All right, why not?
And that's the thing. I think doing it in that sort of manner allows us to just sort of we have episodes that we can release when we want to release them. And then we have just if we record something and want it to come out next, it comes out next. You know what I mean? I think we should get through the 4 that are loaded into the Podbean.
Okay.
And then this can be 5 or 6 or whatever. Yeah.
So 3 weeks. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Maybe and maybe this will fill in the slot for episode 10.
There you go.
If I can't find it. But I think with that, what I'll skip worst case scenario. And
that can also just be an audio only. They don't all have to have video.
Yeah. Let's do that. It's just the numbers are still going to have to be the same on both audio and video platforms. I don't want to stagger.
Right, but then we just do a quick video saying if one's audio only, then the next one has a quick stinger on the video.
Yeah, I'll have a graphic or a music stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Release the video
when we get there
as the audio, and it's just our logo in the background.
I mean, we still potentially have 8 weeks before we get there. So.
Right. Oh, one last thing I wouldn't mind before the year is out is merch.
Bro, didn't we have some good ideas for merch, bro? And
I don't know. I don't think we did.
All right, so
straight up, I just want the dude with the headphones. I want this T-shirt.
Okay. All right. We can do it.
Just even that on a hat. Easy. You know what I mean?
That's light work, bro. That'd be cool, especially with the pop-up.
Yeah.
The bubble on the hat. That'd be pretty cool, right? I'd like that. Black hat, white head, and red headphones. That'd be pretty cool. Oh, maybe a blue hat, white head, red headphones with a hoodie like this.
Ooh. Yeah, there you go. But merch, I'm really excited to have merch.
Yeah, man. That's easy, man. I come from that world, man. So that's ain't nothing but a thing, man. We should probably get some samples in the next couple of weeks to get that going, just to have to wear for one of these episodes. That'd be pretty cool.
Fuck yeah. All right, and I think I don't know. You got anything else you want to say?
Nope, I'm good to go, man. It was a good combo.
All right, yeah. All right. So everybody, thank you for joining us again on this journey of figuring out what is this podcast. As always, I have been Dave.
And I have been your boy Gene.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.